Hi, everybody. Dr. Sue Kornbluth here, your expert in high conflict divorce and parent alienation. I'm happy to bring you this recorded webinar today. I am joined by Lenore Myers. She is a lawyer and a mediator with Divorce Done Differently. You probably know of her already. She's been on my radio show several times, Real Divorce Talk. And today we wanted to allow you to see us live and in person as we dive into co-parenting during the coronavirus and inform you on how important it is not only to co-parent now, but also after this virus passes, and it will. We're just not sure when. Hi, Lenore, welcome.
Hi, Sue. Dr. Sue, how are you?
I'm good, Lenore. How are you doing in all of this?
I'm hanging in there. It's certainly an adjustment like it is for everybody else. But I'm also enjoying the time at home with my family and my pets, and not being on that rat race wheel of where am I supposed to be, when, and where. So it's giving me some time to regroup and enjoy my home. But sometimes it's a little tedious as well.
Sometimes it's really trying, Lenore. All day
Yes.
I sit here and I'm blessed and I'm so grateful that I am still able to help my clients in this way through video. And my dog Rosie sits next to me all day long, and it's so comforting. I think she is enjoying that her whole family is with her every day.
I think so. I saw her picture on your Facebook page. She's adorable.
Yeah, I'll keep her. Now, that's not about co-parenting, though. That's just about us.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's important to let other people know that we also lead normal lives. We're just not about our work.
Exactly. I think we definitely pull from our everyday lives in our work.
Yes.
And our work also influences our everyday lives. But yes, we're real people.
We are real people, and we have real fears too. And we have anxiety about what's going on with COVID as well. I know
exactly
people that have it, actually. Thank God they have recovered.
Oh, wow. That's wonderful.
Yeah,
it's very tough.
You people, exactly. All right, so let's dive into our topic today, which is co-parenting. I've seen a lot of changes because of COVID in terms of what is going on with co-parenting right now. I've seen people come together where they haven't been able to come together before. And I've also seen, unfortunately, people that are still going down the same road and are not communicating at all. I know that you're a big proponent of how important communication is when you're co-parenting. So why don't you talk a little bit about why that is so important?
Well, communication is everything, and it's necessary in any kind of working relationship. Most people do not have a good set of relationship communication tools because they've gotten them from their parents. I had a friend that used to say, her mother would say, I put my arm in my sleeve and out came my mother's hands. And we don't realize how deeply ingrained our communication skills are from our childhood, because they're part of our survival skills that we learned very early on. I remember even with my son when he was small, things would come out of my mouth that my mother used to say, and I think, oh my God, I thought I'd never say that.
Yes.
So what happens between couples is their communication skills are based on how they learn to communicate from their parents. There's a great marriage counselor in the area that says most relationships are built on 5 unmet or forbidden needs that they learned as a child. And people don't even realize that they're responding to them. So
What are they?
it's different for everybody. So say a parent as a child was told by their parent, why do you always mess up? You can't do anything right. So when their co-parent says to them, Tommy, remember, Tommy likes the crust cut off of his peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It's just a reminder. It's just to help co-parent. That parent that was always criticized as a child is going to get on the defensive, take it as an affront, as their parent, as being judged for their parenting, and they'll lash out at the other parent. And so what you want to do as a co-parent is be your better angel for your little angel. You want to be in the moment of what's being communicated to you and respond accordingly, and not have it trigger something that has nothing to do with your child. Now, because everybody is so heightened during the coronavirus, they may, because they're in that fright or flight kind of mindset that we've talked about, where their executive functioning is turned off and they're just, have their dukes up all the time, they could respond in a really overblown way. And, because one parent mentioned that to them, they could start saying, why do you always have to tell me what to do? I know how to parent. And that's really just an offshoot of their own issues that they haven't worked through. Another response could be, thank you for reminding me of that. That's being in the moment. That's understanding that that other parent wants to be there with you, wants to help you co-parent, and it validates that other parent's suggestion. It's a suggestion. And
Right.
that's what we talked about before. Validation is the healing balm. That if you validate someone else's suggestion or feeling, they feel recognized, and all of that anxiety and anger and everything that comes along with that trigger can fade away.
Yes.
And in that way, you're focusing on your child. You're not going back to that childhood trauma of mom or dad said things that made me feel bad, and that co-parent is making me feel bad, because that co-parent doesn't even know that that was an issue for you, unless the two of you have been through an awful lot of therapy and kind of disseminated and investigated and pulled apart why each of you respond to one another in that way. And the more important thing is, your child's watching this. So when your child is watching how each of you respond to one another, it's being downloaded into their set of relationship tools. And so if they see the one parent responding to the suggestion that, remember, Tommy wants the crust cut off his peanut butter and jelly sandwich, they're getting, if it's a negative response, like, why do you always have to tell me what to do? It's, I can't correct people and ask for what I want, because it will be met with some anger and and disgust. It's not about me. It's always about somebody else. And that when somebody makes a suggestion to you in terms of a correction or a suggestion, your response should be that you act in anger. So therefore you're afraid to ask for what, and that's not a good way to grow up. You should be able to respectfully ask for what you need and get a response that's appropriate.
So many people have difficulty asking for what they need a lot of times in these co-parenting relationships, because in their mind, they're already telling themselves, I am not going to get the response back that I want because of the history that has gone on. Now, I get that question a lot. and my response is always the same. I'm dealing with what is happening right now. I am not dealing with the past. So if you can ask them again in a way where you are coming from a place where you expect a positive response, perhaps you will get that positive response. I think a lot of this has to do with the mindset that people are in prior to going into doing the work to validate the other person's side. We all want validation. We all want to be heard and listened to. It is the key factor, not just in co-parenting relationships, in all relationships. And the reason probably that you have gotten the same pattern of negative responses over time from the co-parent is because you're asking in a way where it is demanding, you're showing blame, or you're not taking responsibility for anything that you've done either. And none of us are 100% innocent when it comes to co-parenting during a divorce. One of the things that I tell my clients never ever to do, Lenore, is use the word you when they are communicating with their ex. You is a blame word. You did this, you did that. You start,
Exactly.
if you start your emails off like that, or your text messages, or your conversations, if you start a conversation off with me like that, it's going to cause me to get angry right away because you're pointing a finger. Instead, the better way to go when co-parenting and trying to get on a better path of co-parenting, even if you haven't been on one to begin with, is to ask, what is your opinion? Or what is your suggestion? For example, about a good time for Johnny to Zoom with me today. Because that allows the other party to have to be able to participate in that conversation and offer something back to you, not be told what to do. And that is a big part, in my mind, of how communication can become more positive in co-parenting. Do you agree?
Totally. I mean, here's the thing. As a mediator and a lawyer, I always try to be the peacemaker. So yes. I help my clients in mediation make statements, I feel. I ask my mediation clients, if someone makes a statement, what did you hear that person say? And if they heard it incorrectly, then the other person can clarify. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that I've learned in the peacemaking seminars that I've gone to is starting with the phrase, would you consider?
A great one.
That's an amazing tool. I've used that actually to settle really contentious litigation cases. Mm-hmm. Just by saying, would you consider? It changes the whole tone. Yes. And so what parents have to realize is even though a lot of trust has been broken, that other parent agrees with you on one point. Mm-hmm. They want what's best for your child, just like you do. They love your child just like you do. And so in that mindset, if you approach them with, would you consider, or, have you noticed, or what do you think would be best for Tommy in this situation? Just like you're saying, all of those phrases put it in a totally different mindset. And mediation is a good way to give people those tools, because or co-parent counseling, but a lot of times parents are at a point when they first break up, they're not willing to necessarily be all touchy-feely in a co-parenting situation.
Right.
But in a mediation situation where they feel they have their own autonomy, and you're not trying to delve deep into all of those very painful wounds, but just trying to communicate on surface issues, that is a really good way to reestablish good communication skills.
Yeah, I like how you said if you can come to terms and agree on one thing, and there's always something that you can agree on, because you were co-parenting while you were married too, by the way. I think people forget that. It's the anger that gets involved afterwards between the both of you, and the unresolved issues and the anger that you have towards each other that prevents you from co-parenting, by the way. It has really nothing to do with the child. It has to do with what's going on between the two of you, and that you both cannot step up and rid yourself of your own pain and anger.
Exactly.
That's why the communication goes in the toilet.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Because, when you're in that battle mode, you're shooting volleys at one another. And what I say to my clients is, if you keep doing that, you're shooting those volleys right through your child, and you're making them into emotional Swiss cheese. And that's not what you want to do. You don't want your energy to be about fighting when your child's involved. You want your energy to be focused on your child's needs, what they want. And if you start again with the premise that you both agree on one thing, you want what's best for your child, and then go from there, it just changes the whole dynamic. It disseminates so much anger at times.
Yeah, you said something important before I just want to go back to for a minute. You said that both parents want what is best for their child. Now, that is very interesting that you said that, because, I deal with very high conflict cases, and a lot of the individuals will say, my ex has narcissistic tendencies, is so selfish, they only think of themselves before their children. But that is true in some cases. But what you just said is also relevant to that, because that parent that may have those tendencies, in their mind also believes that they know what is best for their child. And I think that was so on point what you said, because the other party thinks they don't know anything that is good for their child, the other parent of the person that's causing all this stuff. But the point here is that maybe what's really happening and what you're saying to yourself is, he or she doesn't want exactly what I want for my child, and therefore they are wrong in everything. And that, unfortunately, is blocking you from working with this parent in a way, because I have seen it. This is what I do for a living. And I see when the parent that's being targeted actually sees the other parent's side and says to that other parent, who is a contentious parent, believe me, who may have narcissistic tendencies, but when my client approaches that parent in a way where they validate that parent and they say such things as, what do you think? Would you consider this? They come around eventually.
They do, because you have to understand that if you can't change the other parent, but you can change your reaction to that parent. A lot of times I say, and you know how I love my metaphors, when parents go, if one of them changes the dance steps it can become a wonderful waltz because the other parent belong in that dance. So if you change your dance steps, it changes the whole dance. And again, that's why mediation is so important. It changes the dance.
And it
If people
teaches
go
them
to
how
court,
to
it's
dance.
adversarial. Exactly. It teaches them a whole new set of steps.
That's right.
But if you go into court, it just reinforces that same negative behavior. It's an adversarial system. They teach you how to fight.
Yep.
You're already doing that really great, and that's not helping your child.
That's right. And you know, most court cases that are in litigation, I have seen from the people that I work with, there's, even when the divorce settles or the custody is settled, they still don't talk to each other.
Oh no, they still fight more because
Right.
they've been wounded again and again and again. Because the idea in these adversarial systems is, I need to show why that other parent is a bad parent.
Mm-hmm.
So that doesn't help. And your child needs to believe that both of their parents are good people. They know they're half of your DNA. If you're trying to show them that the other parent is a bad parent, they're going to just feel bad about themselves. You're really not helping your child develop the self-esteem they need to be healthy and successful in life if you're fighting and bad-mouthing the other parent.
And sometimes you have to make compromises. You know what my three C's are? It is communication, compromise, and being calm. And
yes, that's mediation.
oh, well, maybe I should be doing that too. No, I have too much already. Now, I'll let you handle that. But what I'm saying is, it's so much easier to do it the way we're talking about. When you're doing it the other way, we know you're spent because you're exuberating so much more energy into staying angry and keep fighting. I had a phone call with one of my clients who I helped to get to another place, a new mindset in her life. She had been fighting in court for 4 years with no resolution. We worked together for 3 months, Lenore. I calmed her down. She changed her mindset, and she is now working it out with her ex out of court in a way where she never thought she could. And she texted me one day out of the blue, and she said, Dr. Sue, I feel peace for the first time in 4 years. And I know that we're not at the end yet, but I feel so much peace every day in just dealing with what is in front of me. The fear has gone away with communication with him. The stress that I was carrying around went away. And it's because she was taught how to communicate in a way where he could hear her and she could hear him. It makes all the difference in any and every case. I believe that.
Oh, 100%, 100%. And, you know, now she can focus her energy on her child.
Yes.
Clearly, being that spent, how did she have energy left over for her child? And all of that would be trickling down to her child. Her child would know her mom is stressed or his mom is stressed, and they can't focus on them. And they'll feel, and kids want to please their parents. Kids have this innate need of wanting to actually take care of their parents. You can see a 2 or 3 year old that if their mom or dad is crying, they will try and comfort that parent, because compassion is an innate skill that we all have.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but then what happens is the child's parenting the parent. The parent should be there to comfort and support the child. But a parent being that stressed out leaves a child sometimes feeling like They have to comfort their parent. They have to be good so their parent
Mhm.
isn't upset. It does a complete role reversal. So
Yes.
those good communication skills in a two-parent household or two-household parenting situation, it's so important for the child. It's a game changer. It's a life changer. It's the key to your child having a successful and healthy life.
Agree. And what we're talking about today is how to help you through what's going on right now in the world. And we're focusing on communication because it
Exactly.
is essential now. It was essential before, and it's going to be essential after this passes. And
Yes.
so it's best to start practicing it now in this positive way if you haven't already done it, even in the contentious co-parenting relationships. You can do it with the right tools, but you have to be one thing, and it's another C word, consistent.
Yes.
You need to be consistent in your language and in your replies. And even when you get upset, if something comes back where the other party says, "What is this all about? This doesn't sound like you." You take time to digest all of that before you get back and start texting. And you
Oh,
come back and you
exactly.
say in a consistent way, "I've thought about this. It's time that we start communicating in a better way because what we are doing is destructive." That is the best advice that I can give everyone listening here today.
Right. And to follow up on that, while text and email might give you a chance to rethink things, you do lose a lot of intonation and subtle messaging when you send that. So if you can talk on the phone or
Good
do a
luck with some
FaceTime,
people. Yeah.
right, but that in and of itself helps stop misinterpretation.
Yes, it
And it gives
does.
you a chance in real time to correct any misinterpretation so that somebody isn't stewing or wondering or misinterpreting what you really meant. And I
Yeah.
know sometimes that's hard,
Mm-hmm.
but it's actually the better way to go. To try and do that live, and you can just have the mindset when you're making that call. Hi, Mom, Dad, I want to just talk about one thing. This is it. It's about Tommy's homework.
Right.
I am noticing there's a problem with it. Can you work with me and give me some suggestions as to how we can approach it together?
Right.
And if someone says, you're always doing this or that, that's when you say, listen, I can tell you're not in the right place to discuss this in a productive way. So I'm going to hang up now. Click.
Mm-hmm. That's right. You do have the
And
control to do
so,
that.
right. And so in that space, you have let that other person know where you're coming from and also taking constructive action where that wasn't appropriate. Click. I'm not going to go there with you. And people will respond positively over time to that.
Absolutely. And that's another good point, Lenore, before we wrap up here, that what we're talking about in terms of communicating this to the other parent, it doesn't take one time or two times or three times. It takes sometimes 50 to 100 times to get to the place where you need to get to communicate in a fair and validating way. But most of the time you can get there if you keep being consistent. What is one last tip you want to give to parents now that are trying to co-parent, Lenore?
Again, developing trust. I think the goal has to be about developing trust. And you're right, it's not a one-time thing, and it's not not just one professional can help you do that.
Right.
Mediation is a great way to start, but
Yes.
mediation needs the therapeutic support that counselors and psychologists can give,
Yes.
because that's deeper work. And you have to learn to trust yourself and do your own deep work, and then, you know, work in communicating with the other parent. And trust is a process that is built upon. So
And
you
I'd
have
like
to
to add
learn
to
to
that,
retrust.
rebuilt. Trust in these
Yes.
situations needs to be rebuilt in a different way.
Yes.
All right,
Exactly.
Lenore, thank you so
Exactly.
much for joining me today. We got a lot of good
Oh, my pleasure.
we got a lot of good stuff here, out to parents that are really trying to co-parent now. And I think it's important for them to know, start using these tips now so that when this lifts, you're already in the mode
Yeah.
of doing it. Practice, practice,
Yes.
practice is what I like to say. Lenore, tell you,
Yes.
you do mediation here in the Philadelphia area, right? Delaware.
I do mediation throughout Pennsylvania. We do in person when it's appropriate, but
Right.
also a lot of Zoom. I've done that before this virus. I've done lots of Zoom sessions with couples across Pennsylvania, to work out whatever their divorce or custody issues are, and then help them on the legal end when it's all resolved as well.
Do you practice anywhere else? I forget.
No, I'm only licensed to practice law in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
I can mediate, and there's anywhere. There's not licensure for mediation, but I can't help anybody on the other end in terms of the legal documentation other than in Pennsylvania.
Okay. Yes, but Lenore is different than a lot of other mediators because Lenore really sees this as a way to come together peacefully. And you can do your divorce differently. And she is really great at getting two people that can't see things eye to eye to come together and see it from one perspective in many areas. Wouldn't you say that's true?
Yes, yes, and I do that in a way that really, I don't leave them swimming I don't throw
Right.
them into the deep end of the pool. I hold their hand every step of the way. I help them build everything so that when they come to discuss their issues, they have all the information, they're informed. I have other professionals that support them through the process that I refer them to. So my approach to mediation is a holistic approach in every way.
Yes, that's what I was just going to say. It's very holistic. All right, Lenore, thank you again for joining us today. And, I hope that we can do this again in the near future.
That would be great. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Take care, everyone,
Bye-bye.
and stay safe.
Yes, stay safe and healthy.